11:53 is the time. Alex Tait is here from Reform Political Advertising. And I said it last time you were here, but the audience keeps growing, Alex, so there'll be people listening who weren't here last time you were here. I could not believe it the first time it was explained to me that the regulation of advertising, for example, washing powder, is approximately 7 million times more rigorous than the regulation of advertising political parties. Hence, you're politically neutral not-for-profit, and that's crucial because everybody has been less than ideal in this kind of context. All the parties, you're campaigning for greater transparency and accuracy in election advertising, which means the representation of the people bill, which is about to hit committee stage in the House of Commons, is something that you have been following with particular interest.
That's right, yeah. And thanks for having me on, James.
Pleasure.
I don't think it's an overstatement to say it's a once-in-a-generation opportunity to do something about it, actually, with this going to committee stage. And the reason I think that's valid is that actually election laws haven't changed have barely changed in decades, and certainly the rules for election advertising hasn't. And actually, if you combine that with like some technological change that we're seeing at the moment, and actually the fragmentation of vote share into the five-party system that we're seeing at the moment with the rise of Reform and the Greens, we're seeing incredibly close election contests, like razor-thin victories, which makes this just ever more pressing. So I think MRS is projecting that a third of the constituency seats in 2026 are going to be marginal, so won by a 5% vote share or less.
Wow.
And actually, just to give you some examples of that, the Runcorn by-election was won by 6 votes. That was 0.02% of the vote share. The Doncaster mayoral election, Labour beat Reform by 698 votes. That's 1% of the vote share. The North Tyneside mayoral election, that was particularly filled with disinformation, Labour just squeaked by with 440 votes. That was 0.8% of the vote share. So election ads, they're not the biggest driver of why someone votes, but with votes that close, can it have a decisive impact? Yes, and it
Clearly.
will. And then you add to it, actually, as all of your viewers will be seeing, the sort of rise of AI and deepfakes. It just turbocharges the whole disinformation space. That means that it's urgent and a great opportunity to do something about this.
So bizarrely, and you kicked off in 2018, didn't you? And I think we spoke for the first time shortly afterwards. And look,
you more or less launched our campaign, James, to be honest.
We do our best, Alex.
Yeah,
we do our best. But things have
great.
actually got, and this isn't a criticism because things are moving and this bill is crucial, but things are now much worse because deepfakes and digital impersonation were things that we didn't even know about in 2018. You've seen the George Freeman story, have you, that our colleague Flaminia has written up for the LBC website and Full Fact have looked into as well. This is a bloke, but to all intents and purposes, the former Conservative MP, George Freeman, on social media, on film, revealing that he has defected to Reform, which he actually hasn't. No crime committed, no offence committed.
And he couldn't do anything about it as well because there were no rules to prevent.
Couldn't even get them to take it down, or
So there were 4 things. We've kind of worked very closely actually with other democracy groups and people like Full Fact and an all-party political group in Westminster called the Fair Elections, APPG, to have 4 recommendations, and that's one of them. George Freeman's example is a really good textbook example of why we're advocating that you shouldn't be able to impersonate a political candidate via deepfake or AI.
It's huge, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Potentially, because you could have, I'm sure we already do, footage of somebody saying something absolutely hideous and having it hung around their neck like an albatross, even though they never came close to making those comments or said anything vaguely similar.
I'd predict you're going to see, in the run-up to the May elections, this bill's certainly not going to be done by then. I predict we're going to see more and more of this, and I'm sure your listeners have started to see examples of that actually in TikTok and X. It's kind of increasingly...
And as we have discovered, particularly in the context of children's online safety, these platforms aren't going to do anything about it unless they absolutely have to, which is why we need laws and robust punishment. So to run through the full recommendations your recommendations for the bill, you've got clear and prominent party identification. That's quite self-explanatory. A transparent, searchable database of all election adverts. Why is that so important?
It's to combat what people call dark advertising. So advertising that only the person that's targeted with it sees and that isn't open to public scrutiny. So it rose to prominence at the Brexit referendum as a sort of concept. And I think we were the first people to put this forward as a concept, as an independent database in 2018 to the Fake News and Disinformation Inquiry. And it's not a pipe dream. It's quite amazing to see that actually this as a concept this year is now going live across the whole EU. Across all member states in the EU. So we think that should be applied in the UK as well.
And this is the sort of your Auntie Doris's Facebook page pops up with telling her that if she votes to leave the European Union, then she'll get all the Battenberg cake she can eat.
Exactly, lots of...
And no one knew this existed. I remember watching footage. I paid quite close attention during the referendum, as you'd hope. I remember watching footage of Dominic Cummings boasting about the Facebook campaign that they launched in the really closing days and threw every penny they had left at it, and it was extraordinary. So it means everybody, including journalists, can scrutinise everything. Everyone is being shown, even if they're not being targeted themselves. We've talked about deep fakes and digital impersonation, and then really where it began was with content regulation for misleading election advertising, the fourth platform.
Exactly, and probably the most important one in many ways. So this is rules for factual claims in election ads, so not opinions, manifesto promises. So as you were pointing out, if you're advertising a chocolate bar, you've got 4 sets of rules to ensure that it's accurate. If you're advertising an election ad to influence the votes, there's absolutely nothing. This was one of the key recommendations from the Democracy and Digital Technology Committee in the House of Lords that Lord Putnam chaired, who now chairs our campaign.
Yeah.
And
Lord Putnam.
And it was a unanimous recommendation from them. And actually, again, this is something that's proven to work as well. We've set up a sort of election ad review panel to demonstrate how it could work in the UK. But actually, there's precedents in other countries. So in New Zealand, it's been up and running for a couple of decades. 2 states in Australia have got it in place with moves to bring it in federally too.
Well, we'll get this clipped up and get it out there into the ether. I mean, there's a large number of people listening and watching us now, but the clip will obviously reach parts that other media adventures can't reach. How would we prove now that we're not deep fake? We couldn't.
Well, so we also think it should be labelled when parties do it.
This is why it's important. So I am James O'Brien and you are Alex Tait. But there was no way we can prove that.
Well, this is the disinformation environment we're heading into. You go onto some of these platforms on X, half the content on it you can't really be sure is real or not.
Absolutely invented.
One thing I was wondering if we could ask as well is that, and we're a politically neutral, not-for-profit organisation run by unpaid volunteers, but our next stage for this is to try to influence MPs to get them to include it in amendments, and then you need to get MPs to support the amendments. And we'd like to ask if your listeners feel as passionate about this as we do. We've got a functionality on our website, reformpoliticaladvertising.org. If they click on Take Action, email your MP, you can amend the email, but it takes less than a minute to do that, and it just really helps kind of increase the sort of pressure for MPs and show why everyone thinks this is important and why it's important to include in the bill.
I endorse this message. So it's reform political advertising. Yes, it is. This is the real me. I endorse it. I'm James O'Brien and I endorse this message. Reformpoliticaladvertising.org.
That's right.
And it's all very self-explanatory when you get there. And what you are calling for is clear and prominent party identification on all election material, a transparent, searchable database of all election adverts, AI deepfakes and digital impersonation being properly regulated, i.e. banned, and content regulation for misleading election advertising. So if you want a level playing field, if you want a fair and free electoral process, you should absolutely be on board with all of this and all of the work that Reform Political Advertising does. Alex Tait, thank you.
Thanks.
It's 12:02.